You're a retro computing fan. You're interested into messing with a working machine and actually using that instead of a soldering iron and hours spent at the bench. You want a short path between your code and tangible results. One of those Phoenix retro systems might be the thing for you. There's a compelling mix of nostalgia and modern twists on these boards. It can act as an 8-bit 6502, a 16-bit 65816, or even a 6809 system. The cores can be swapped in and out in its FPGA, so you're really getting a multi-platform device with excellent video capabilities that outperforms options of the 80s, while still allowing you to run some legacy code for these CPUs. Today, I'm gonna concentrate on the current second wave of these systems. The creator, Stéphanie Allaire, has been extremely active developing these computers, designing accessories for them, fixing bugs in their FPGA cores, and of course fighting to get a fair price for this relatively low volume fabrication in order to create income from her dream vision. And guess what? There's right now a 1-week long sale on a few flagship products, ending on June 20th. More on this later. Chances are, if you're watching this, you're not familiar with the F256. You're not even aware that Wave 2 launched in 2025. So let's rewind a bit. The first wave of F256 launched at the end of 2022 and arrived in people's hands around May of 2023. If you wanted to save money and just get access to the platform as cheaply as possible, the $225 junior single board computer was the sensible low-cost choice, provided you took care of the PS2 keyboard and 12-volt power supply. The around $595 F256K was the flagship computer with mechanical keys inside a wedge case. The only important choice left to customers is how much they cared about sound options, but ultimately every piece of software for one works perfectly well for the other. Here's a simple chart. Let's start with the differences of my main interest, audio options. During Wave 1, I personally went with Decay and I exposed why I did that in a recent video of mine. Go look for it if you're curious, you can find the link in the description. But now, let's move on to the Junior 2 and K2. You suddenly gain way more audio options. The main thing though, and this is crucial in my opinion, the sound options become the exact same between the Junior 2 and K2. Now that the FPGA has way more room in it, some audio chips have been migrated to it. As a K2 developer myself, I'm satisfied that my programs can work as is for Junior 2 owners, and they'll be able to hear whatever audio I throw at them without any compromise. Next, let's compare the connectivity that was in the past and how it changes for the current class. In Wave 1, the main joystick of choice were these Atari C64 joysticks, and you had 2 ports, as any self-respecting computer inspired by the 80s would do. This is your regular 1-button, 1-stick joystick that people either love or hate. It has its charm, but also its limits in the gameplay it can allow. However, there is an unhinged adapter that plugs to a tiny circular port, the FNX4N4S. It lets you plug up to 4 NES gamepads or up to 4 SNES gamepads. That's an optional accessory you can get in the store. I can personally confirm that it is absolutely possible to plug in and deal with all 8 of them at the same time. Imagine the crazy party-style games that could be designed with just this peripheral. Let's look at the details. Here's the full list of ports that let you connect to extra stuff. Now, what do you get for Wave 2? Let's start with additions and changes. The video out is now a HDMI connector instead of DVI. For the Junior 2, the power is changed to USB-C instead of a barrel jack. The K2 gains MIDI sockets for external devices. The footprint that was reserved for Wi-Fi through an ESP32 Feather is now a WizNet chip and antenna. There's an internal micro SD card, one for the Junior 2 and actually two for the K2. There's this great looking MIDI LCD screen on the K2. And there's an extra RGB addressable LED on the K2's case. It's normally for network activity, but you can take control of it like I did here. Let's see the removals. For the Junior 2, the joystick ports were lost and relegated to a pin header. The serial DB9M socket in the K2 is simply removed, but you can have serial communication over the USB-C debug port in one of its channels. The JTAG ports are lost on both machines. This was for updating your FPGA. It required a special device and a clunky procedure. It's extremely simplified to dropping a new file in one of the internal micro SD cards, at least for the K2. Nice. To sum things up, there's pretty much no reason why you would go for Wave 1 instead of Wave 2 today in 2025. The first machines are no longer sold on the main website anyway, so the point is moot. You only get new goodies and a much better evened out playing field between the single board computer and the full-fledged flagship K2. So let's check out an important aspect, pricing. If we're shopping for a Junior, the board itself is gonna cost $225. Everyone has sources of USB-C power nowadays, so I won't factor that into the cost. If I assume you don't have a PS2 keyboard, a popular cheap option online is the small one from Patrikios, which would cost around $25, with cheaper options hovering around the $20 mark. If you want a PS2 mouse, again Patrikios with this popular optical one at $9. If you really care about Atari style joysticks and MIDI in and out, and ESP32 for connecting a Meatloaf device, see a link in the description about that. Then there's this Swiss knife hat that'll come out in summer 2025 for $150. There's a Phoenix PS2 Deluxe keyboard complete with optical switches and addressable RGB lights that will add around $290. So to break it down, the frugal price point is $225. If you're in need of both PS2 devices, that jumps to about $260. If you have intense device needs or figure out later that you're jealous of all the goodies that K2 owners have, the hat pushes this up to $410. If you swap out the cheapy PS2 keyboard for the deluxe one by Phoenix, the mother of all Junior build would go up to about $680. But that's tweakable if you already have some equipment or not. At this price point, you might consider going all in on the next option, the K2. Don't forget that this is a platform that can metamorph into other CPUs. Depending on what core you send it to its FPGA, it can act as a 6502, a 65816, or even a 6809, and more options to come. But wait, that's when I come in and tell you about the Father's Day special sale. The SBC itself is $20 off until June 20th, 2025. The deluxe keyboard is $50 off. So these are the updated build prices. All that remains is for you to figure out a small enclosure or case, and some people have gone to absolute freaking town with some crazy concepts in the community. Now let's check out the K2 prices. The main computer itself runs for $595. It requires external power, but I'm not gonna bother factoring that cost in. A simple 12-volt DC brick for some LED strips you might have or a lamp can work here, and they are plentiful and cheap. As it stands for the base option, it already beats the deluxe mega build I did for the Junior 2, and the case is already figured out and looks fantastic. Plus, you get a small LCD screen on the case, and there's no other way right now to get it. If you absolutely want MIDI in and out connectivity, there's a $30 charge for it. If you're handy with soldering and have these cheap sockets on hand, you could avoid that fee, but not everyone is in that position, of course. Add in a PS2 optical mouse for $10 and you get a frugal build with extras for around $635. Now let's factor in the Father's Day sale, and the base machine drops by $50, so here would be the adjusted prices. The ecosystem has been consistently ramping up with new programs, games, and tools, new entire OSs, and new mastering of its devices from the community. There are new cores in development for this flagship platform, including an upcoming 68,000 for the K2 only, which will allow truly weird and compelling stuff, and unlock the onboard DDR3 RAM it has. There are pro revisions of the 65816 and 6809 that double the CPU speed that are currently being cooked up and are set to release soon. The future is bright for this platform, and I'm glad to be able to spread awareness of it for this high quality project. Not enough people know about it, in my opinion. The launch of the K2 happened around March of this year, and the Junior 2 a bit earlier, but I feel even the Wave 1 has not been picked up on the radar from enough people. It's my opinion that more talented developers could make all of these retro systems sing and unlock their full potential. As far as product availability goes, the K2 should be easy to acquire whenever, but these slashed prices are a good reason to spring for one. The Junior 2 has to be built in runs, and one is ramping up right now during the sale. It's hard to predict how frequently this will happen after June 2025, however. If you enjoyed this and would like to stick around to learn about what I've been doing with this computer, especially in the sound and music part of the K2, you know what YouTube things you need to do. I'll catch you next time.